Ladies and gentlemen, we now ask that you also remain standing for our invocation done by Chief Ricardo Barrett Hernandez of the First People.
Thank you very much, Master of Ceremonies. O great Creator God, we call out to you at this time. Great Spirit, who dwells in every object, every person, and every place, we summon you from the far places into our present awareness. God of the earth beneath our feet, storer of vast resources, we would give thanks unceasingly for your great bounty. Great God, may we be aware of the goodness of the gift of life and be worthy of its priceless privilege. Bless us with knowledge of the freedom which follows the well-disciplined life. Teach us that they who are truly strong are also kind and compassionate. Fear and hatred cannot rule our lives. Temper us with toughness to withstand the challenges of this life. Brace us that we neither neglect our gifts nor lose in laziness the hopes each day brings, so that our lives will reflect the inherent nobility of man. You who are the master artist, as your creation shows, we thank you for the gifts given to those who are able to bring your many wonders to our attention through their artistic expression. May this exposition of expression inspire and motivate us to appreciate the many gifts you bestow on your humanity. O Great Spirit, we pray a special blessing on the artist Glenn Rupchan for his commitment in reproducing Carly Chang's work, The Inherent Nobility of Man. He has used his talent to make visible the first peoples of this land, Kairi, Trinidad, and Tobago. O Great Spirit, Tamushi Adayali Wachinachi, who dwells in the highest heaven, we send our prayer to you from earth to heaven and ask that you who dwell in the highest heaven look down and grant us your choicest blessings. Ehe, ehe, ehe.
Ladies and gentlemen, please be seated. Prime Minister of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago, Dr. the Honorable Keith Rowley, Acting Minister of Works and Transport and Minister of Agriculture, Land and Fisheries, Kazim Hossain, Minister of Tourism, Culture and the Arts, Senator the Honorable Randall Mitchell, Chairman and Board of Directors of the Airport Authority of Trinidad and Tobago, as well as staff and employees, Chief Ricardo Barrett Hernandez of the First People, artists, family members of Glenn Rupchan, specially invited guests, members of the media, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. My name is Hans Devines and I have the pleasure of being your Master of Ceremonies for this opening, so to speak. It was just yesterday that the Prime Minister articulated on the launch of Patri-Art-Ism what can be gained through the gaze of the work of our artists, and how much of a pity it is that the average citizen does not get to view the work of these artists. But no longer. 3 of our Magnificent 7 will house some of our great works of art as we celebrate 60 years of independence, our Diamond Jubilee. It's truly something to be proud of, isn't it? Yeah, 60 years. Castle, Killarney, Whitehall, and Millfleur will house some of our greatest works of art from some of our greatest artists. And here, at the Piarco International Airport, not only will our citizens be able to see and appreciate this art, but those coming to our shores to celebrate, to be part of us, also get to view this art. So, firstly, let me say thank you to the family of Glenn Rupchan. I think they deserve a round of applause for his great work and for supporting and being part of this initiative. Now today we're going to hear from different speakers about the process, about how important it is to each and every one of us. But to formally welcome us, please put your hands together for our Acting Minister of Works and Transport, Mr. Kazem Hossain. Welcome.
Thank you very much, Mr. Master of Ceremonies. Dr. the Honorable Keith Rowley, Prime Minister of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago, Senator the Honorable Randall Mitchell, Minister of Tourism, Mrs. Simone Tora Mora, Permanent Secretary of the Ministry of Tourism, Culture and the Arts, Mr. Christopher Alcazar, Chairman of the Airports Authority of Trinidad and Tobago, members of the Board of the Airports Authority of Trinidad and Tobago, Mr. Hayden Newton, General Manager of the Airports Authority of Trinidad and Tobago, Mr. Kenwin Critchlow, Visual Arts Lecturer of the University of the West Indies, Management and Staff of the Airports Authority, Mrs. Angela Rupchan, wife of the late Glenn Rupchan and family, may his soul rest in peace, Chief Ricardo Barrett Hernandez, specially invited guests, members of the media, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. I am delighted to welcome you today to the recommissioning of the Inherent Nobility of Man, artwork in commemoration of the 60th anniversary as an independent nation. Vincent van Gogh said, "A good picture is equivalent to a good deed," and I believe that this quote is quite fitting for this afternoon's event. Similar to the late Mr. Carlyle Chang and the original artist of the Inherent Nobility of Man, the late Mr. Glenn Rupchan also performed a good deed, one that demonstrates true patriotism and pride in one's country and its history. And what better occasion to recommission such powerful artwork than this one, which forms part of the government's celebration of arts and the artists. This unique piece has a magnificent history with the Piarco International Airport. The original design, which was completed by 1962, the late Carlyle Chang, once stood prominently on the rival hall of the original airport terminal building, but was unfortunately damaged during construction. Fortunately, the piece was recreated by the late artist Glenn Rupchan on acrylic canvas and was housed at the National Museum. Airports are gateways to countries, regions and cities, and possesses the ability to create unique arrival and departure experiences that connects airports to destinations. They influence the first and last impression of a traveler and are vital to the shaping of opinions of destinations. Having this exquisite piece on display at the international arrival halls will give visitors from across the world a visual representation of the interconnectivity of our people, lands, and spaces. It will showcase the splendor of our festivals, cuisine, culture, music, industry, icons, people, and artistry, something that makes us proud as Trinbagonians. Indeed, today is a historic day at the Airports Authority, and we want to thank the Honorable Prime Minister and the Government of Trinidad and Tobago for their critical role in recommissioning this ceremony. On behalf of the management and staff of the Airports Authority of Trinidad and Tobago, and by extension the Ministry of Works and Transport, I want to welcome you warmly, each and every one, especially the artists and families of the late artists, to this historic event. May God continue to bless us, and may God continue to bless Trinidad and Tobago. I thank you.
May God continue to bless us, and may God continue to bless Trinidad and Tobago. Just look at it, 50 by 15 feet. This regarded as the most important artwork in the Caribbean of all time. Think about it. Look at it behind us. Right there for all of us to enjoy and appreciate who we are. I want to acknowledge in our presence the Minister of Housing and Urban Development, the Honorable Camille Robinson Regis, with us here as well. Now we welcome to the microphone a man that is passionate about tourism, arts, and of course culture. Please put your hands together for our Minister, the Honorable Randall Mitchell.
Thank you, Hans. Permit me also to recognize Dr. Keith Rowley, Prime Minister of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago, the Honorable Kazim Hussein, Acting Minister of Works and Transport, my other cabinet colleague, Minister Camille Robinson Regis, Minister of Housing and Urban Development, my Permanent Secretary, Simone Thornmora Quinones, Mrs. Angela Rupchand, widow to the late Glenn Rupchand, Ms. Kiba Jacob Motley, President of the Art Society of Trinidad and Tobago, Mr. Andy Jacob, artist and independent curator, artists all specially invited guests, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. As we celebrate our Diamond Jubilee, 60 years of independence, it is important to reflect on the importance that art has played in capturing the various stories of our journey through those 60 years. I'm privileged to stand here today to give brief remarks on the occasion of the unveiling of this work by Glenn Rupchand, a recreation of the masterpiece by his mentor, Carlyle Chang, The Inherent Nobility of Man, which was commissioned to reflect our indigenous, African, European, Indian, and Chinese heritage. In this year, in 2023, we are grateful to those artists we refer to as masters. Masters Carlyle Chang, Glenn Rupchand, Bosco Holder, Leroy Clark, Sybil Atek, Peter Minchell, Jackie Hinkson, Ken Critchlow, and Carlyle Harris, many, many more. We stand on a very, very strong foundation of Trinidad and Tobago's unique and proud art history. Through the interpretive journey of these artists, we are able to experience the history of Trinidad and Tobago. The significance of the foundation created by these master artists is that it created a platform for local artists to continue to grow by providing realistic Trinbagonian examples of art. Examples of tutelage and mentorship, such as Jackie Hinkson's influence on Che Lovelace at Queen's Royal College and Leroy Clark's mentorship of Sean Peters, demonstrate the growth and development of art in Trinidad and Tobago. Today, we have a vibrant community of artists who are following in the footsteps of these masters by carving their own journey. These artists include Tessa Alexander, Shalini Siram, Peter Shepard, Martin Superville, Beverly Fitzwilliam Harris, Danielle Boudou Fortune, and Brianna McCarthy, just to name a few, who are all distinguishing themselves and flying the flag of Trinidad and Tobago locally, regionally, and internationally. There is a bright future for visual art and artists in Trinidad and Tobago. This is evident because there has been an increase in the number of spaces available to display artwork both in the private and public sectors. Several private sector galleries opened in the last 3 to 5 years in Port of Spain, San Fernando, and Arima. In the public sector, and thanks to the Honorable Prime Minister and Mrs. Camille Robinson-Regis and the Heritage Buildings Committee, we now have refreshed spaces such as Castle Kalani, Stolmeyer's Castle, Millefleur, the Parliament's Rotunda Gallery, and for a short period of time this weekend, Whitehall. We have the Central Bank Museum and a soon-to-be refurbished National Museum and Art Gallery, which all host exhibitions featuring the work of locally entrenched and up-and-coming artists. As we celebrate our 60th anniversary of independence, we can proudly say we have a strong arts community working to preserve our stories for future generations. Artists are producing work for us to enjoy. It is our responsibility to help those around us to develop and deepen their appreciation of art. So today we salute Glenn Rupchand and his family, as well as Carlisle Chang and his family, who have given us this masterpiece to enjoy for decades to come. On behalf of the Ministry of Tourism, Culture and the Arts, happy 60th Independence, and I thank you.
Thank you very much, Minister Mitchell, and it represents so much, even sharing in our art and culture, because Glenn Rupchand was actually the apprentice of Carlisle Chang. So it's more than just a piece. It represents so much of us here in Trinidad and Tobago. Now we welcome artist and former chairman of the National Museum, Ken Critchlow, to bring greetings. Please put your hands together for Mr. Critchlow.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Prime Minister, Minister of Culture, Tourism and Creative Arts, other ministers, artists, family of Glenn Rupchand, artists all. Good evening, and thank you for the reception of a few words that I would like to say on behalf of Glenn and the mural. I would like to start with an extended quotation, so excuse me a little bit. Rupchand paints with circular, vigorous brushstrokes, creating images that cause the onlooker to swoon. His paintings swirl in a maelstrom of frenzy, consisting of pure bright acrylics which swoosh and converge with violence into expansive passages of pigment. The dense textural shapes spiral, leap, and plunge into various directions, only to dissipate into an abyss of indeterminate perception. We are confronted by line and mass. The lines, sometimes heavy and hesitant, scroll and trace boundaries with cadastral effect. Others are calligraphic and feathery, surrounded by a glitzy formalism of self-conscious defiance. But it is in his propelling hand that we see the production of energetic effects that zoom with speed, soaring into depicting squiggles, dots, and circles into a cosmic consciousness. Ladies and gentlemen, this extended quotation is from master artist Willie Chen. He provides us with a really vivid description and an introduction to the pictorial language of Glenn Rupchand. Writing in the Express of 1999, at the occasion of Glenn's exhibition then, Willie Chen provides us with a heartfelt analysis and insight into the way Glenn Rupchand has interpreted Carlisle Chang's mural, The Inherent Nobility of Man. Glenn's interpretation, his stylistic interpretation, was not intended to reproduce Chang's original. It was his salute to his mentor, a way of bowing to Chang and saying the mural was not utterly destroyed, that it had moved from the physical world into the metaverse of his thinking and imagining of our place in the world, that the mural had found significance in our memory and the relation of our soul, our collective soul as a nation. Glenn's stylistic representation, which is before us, was created from what was available to him at the time, from the maquette that is on display here in the atrium, but more from his memory, his imagination, and the experiences that he had working alongside Carlyle Trang during the years of his apprenticeship. Glenn had an enviably close relationship, working relationship with Carlyle Trang. And he had some really very useful information and insight into the techniques, the material use, and the pictorial language that features in the original, now destroyed mural. Glenn was apprenticed to Carlyle Chang Studios as a young teenager. His father, recognizing Glenn's talent and preoccupation with drawing, painting, decorating, and manipulating materials, took him to Carlyle Studios, where Glenn grew into a richer understanding of his artistic gifts and introduced him to the use of visual language and of materials to explore himself and to express concerns of perception and understanding of inspiration. In this regard, Glenn was always very loud in his praise and honor of Carlyle Chang for the ways in which he exposed him and brought him to this consciousness of himself. I should explain that in the period of Glenn's apprenticeship, there were several art studios in Port of Spain. Several eminent practitioners as well. The most prominent of them were like the Ken Morris workshop, the Casals Fine Art, Craft and Woodworking Establishment, George Bailey, Stephen Lee Young's, Mass Camps, Cito Velasquez, Sybil Atek, the Trinidad Art Society, Bosco Holder, MP Aladdin, Pat Chufun, Leo Basso, among a host of others. Ladies and gentlemen, I must tell you, just calling these names causes a bit of surge of emotion in me, because that's also part of my heritage. That is, these are some of the shoulders that I have had the good fortune to stand on. Port of Spain at the time was also a performance center, a stage for the carnival, for Kaiso tents, the Little Carib Dance Theater, the Theater Workshop, Cyril St. Louis, Julia Edwards, Molly Hahi, the La Petite Musical, Steel Band Festival. Looking back into this time of his apprenticeship, it is incredible that a society as on the verge of independence was such a ferment of cultural activity and significance. Chang himself rose to national prominence as a mass man, designing for Lee Young, designing for every dance group in Port of Spain. He was a designer of our national heraldry. He was a painter, a muralist, a graphic artist, an entrepreneur, and in the context of Glenn here, a mentor. Glenn's apprenticeship with Chang at this time was Glenn's defining moment. The apprenticeship took him as a young boy from the rural heart of La Pastora in Santa Cruz and thrust him into the alternatively turbulent, vivacious, dark, but utterly beautiful kaleidoscope of art practices in Port of Spain and in Trinidad and Tobago. It showed him that the culture into which he was born was not a source of shame and that the practices should be hidden. But these were sources of pride in the rich diversity from which to create and to make one's way in the world as an artist. I know my time is limited, and I want to move to the discussion of the painting. But first I must touch on Chang's naming of the mural, the inherent nobility of man. And I raise the question, what is the significance of this term? I think there are two concepts that seem to have preoccupied Chang in the naming. One concept is concerned with nobility as an inherent aspect. It raises our thinking about goodness, decency, stateliness, aristocracy. And the other is about man, not as a gender, but as an aspect of our humanity, our humanness, our being as people. These concepts, when they are framed in the name, raise some really very interesting and intricate connections between the function of art and the society out of which it emerges. Its appearance in Chang's mural differentiate and isolate meanings in the socio-political context of the mural. The concepts touch on forces in the society at independence that require us now as viewers to question the idea of nobility and of man in context of the range of symbols that he offers and the time in which these symbols were brought into the public domain. We know that at independence, when this mural was created, it was deliberately intended to be shown in the arrival hall of the airport. Everyone entering Trinidad and Tobago would have been exposed to the symbols and the awesome spectacle and scale of its presentation. We know that at independence, when there was a considerable amount of skepticism that Trinidad and Tobago could ever hold together as a society, as an independent society without metropolitan controls. Trinidad and Tobago was beset by forces that threatened to tear it apart. Forces of race, economic class, color, geography were held to be too powerful to ever bring order, good governance, stability, and unity to Trinidad and Tobago as a place. This painting, Glenn's interpretation of it, in parallel with Eric Williams' book, History of Trinidad and Tobago, sought to push back against the perceived realities of independence. It proposed then that there were inherent qualities of humanity that are manifest when we come together in the shared purpose of nationhood. Chang optimistically framed these concepts in his figure symbol, which I like to call the hummingbird man, which he posed on the left of the picture plane. It is important to read the pose to which this man is poised as in a moment before flight. This is a painting that reads from right to left. It begins with the intervention of Europe and the transport of persons into the physical environment, and it ends in this optimistic moment of independence, when the idea of Trinidad, the imagination of Trinidad and Tobago as an independent state is poised at the moment of leaping into the future. It is important as well to understand that this flight, or this potential flight, brings together and is aware of the history of dispossession of the First Peoples, the enslavement of Africans, the bondage of Indians, and all others who were brought to these islands as refugees, as adventurers, on whatever, on the ships that are pictured at right. The flight into the unknown freedom of independence was also a consideration of the flora and fauna, the diverse geographical features that held perception of our belongingness and our sense of beauty of these islands. Chang asked us to read the inherent nobility of our humanity as a narrative from right to left. Its meaning revolves around the evolution of its central symbol, the hummingbird man, within the geographical and historical framework of the colonial period. The mural seeks to paint a true narrative of Trinidad and Tobago at independence. Its claim to truth is centered in the moment and momentum of his symbolic figures, bringing together a range of ideas that continue into the present. Ladies and gentlemen, finally, I am hopeful that this mural, this interpretation of Chang's original that is before us here today, I am hopeful that it has found a place in our environment. I am heartened that it has found a place in the airport where it was originally intended to be installed. But it's an airport in which our signs of commerce and the departures and the activities of departure and arrivals are serious competition. But despite that, I am also fearful. I am fearful that in this raising up of this object, this taking it out of the storerooms of the National Museum, is a way of preparing it for its own destruction and abandonment. But I am taking the words or the intent of Kalai Chang and of Glenn, who in his last conversation with me was very intent on making sure that this mural went up, that today's ceremony marks a turning of the tide. I hope that it marks a moment when the arts and the heritage of our society really, like the hummingbird man, is poised at a moment after 60 years of leaping into the next 60 years, and as we move forward. So, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Prime Minister, Minister of Culture, and other ministers of government, fellow artists, family of Glenn Rupchan, thank you very much for this opportunity to say a word on behalf of my good friend who passed, and to speak on behalf of what I think is one of the greatest images, greatest historical pictures that have come out and emerged out of this society. Thank you very much.
All I can say after a speech like that is, wow, Mr. Critchlow, thank you so much for not just sharing the interpretation, sharing the views of the artist, but sharing a piece of you that took you to a very emotional place. I think Mr. Critchlow deserves a round of applause for that. We'd now like to welcome another friend and the president of the Art Society of Trinidad and Tobago, Mr. Andy Jacob, to the microphone right now to speak. Oh, Mr. Jacob? Oh, he. Okay, yes, Mr. Jacob. All right. Give him a round of applause as we welcome him.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Okay, let me clear up that I am not the president of the Art Society. I'm an artist and independent curator, and I'm a bit retired from a lot of activities that I used to take part in the past. Honorable Prime Minister, members of Cabinet, members of the Airport Authority, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for listening to some words that I would want to share with you. These were first written in the TNT Newsday, and I was asked to come here and sort of convey some of the sentiments that were in that article. Okay, so I'll be basically reading the article. Apprentice to the artist Carly Chang at 14, Glenn Rupchan fashioned an outstanding career that built on that early training, transforming Chang into a conduit for Rupchan's own expressive concerns. He was a significant presence on the local art scene, exhibiting frequently, inspiring colleagues and younger artists, and publishing catalogs of his work that will remain an invaluable resource for generations to come. He articulated in many fora the philosophy that underpins his work, the feminine principle, the concept of soul, the importance of rhythm. Most of all, he espoused that love of country and of art as a means to express that love. His long association with a venerable local art tradition, his restless decorativeness, the use of actual and simulated texture, and a commitment to teasing out archetypal forms like the Caribbean Queen, the Man with the Hammer, and others, were drawn together in his work to create a unique Caribbean vision that is both ornamental and profound. Rupchan's long apprenticeship with Chang honed his skills with brush, knife, scissors, glue, and color. More importantly, this period linked him to a tradition that encompassed both carnival and art for country that few of our artists even remember. These were the heady post-independence years when artists aspired to create a national art style in service first to the Federation and later to the newly independent Trinidad and Tobago. These were the days of Chang, Isaiah Boudou, M.P. Aladdin, Willie Chen, and Sybil Artek, founder of the Trinidad Art Society. Future Nobel Prize winners Derek Walcott and V.S. Naipaul were poised for takeoff, and the scholar-politician Eric Williams was fashioning Trinidad and Tobago in his own image and likeness. Rupchan's direct connection to this tradition would be enough to ensure his importance to the contemporary era. However, his acknowledgement of that tradition's high seriousness and lofty ambition shines like a beacon at a time when commercial interests and cynicism have caused several of our local artists to fall short of their best work. Rupchand's use of texture is perhaps the most significant and striking characteristic of his work. His textured surfaces burst from the canvas with that same energetic energy and joy that mirrors the human energy of participation in the carnival. Its biological quality is deliberate, indicative of the artist's stated desire to create a garden or forest from which his symbolic forms emerge. His work uses actual and simulated textures that are at the core of Trinidad's long carnival tradition. Satin, chiffon, lace, and mesh are layered and decorated with rhinestones, sequins, braid, and glitter. This creates a richly textured tapestry, a veritable orgy of textural effects. This nuanced visual texturing appears in the work of many of our landscape painters, where lush vegetation is interwoven with the human presence in sometimes striking and original ways. Rupchand, as a mixed-race person, a Douglas, was acutely aware of the cross-currents that have affected Trinidad and Tobago over many years. He spoke of the days when he and his mentor, the legendary Chang, had to enter a premier local establishment literally through the back door. Similar suspicions greeted Chang and Rupchand at the decidedly black mass camp of the late George Bailey in the 1960s. In both cases, their creative skills opened doors and forced the acceptance of their place in the local art scene. Ethnic and class distinctions have, over the years, dictated peculiar developmental paths in the arts. As the society has evolved, official indifference to the role of art and artists has remained, distorting institutions, educational programs, and art itself. Additionally, non-existent or misguided public commissions, a lack of local visual art publications, and a failure to educate public taste have helped to construct the hostile landscape that Rupchand and his contemporaries were forced to navigate. One may well ask why Rupchand, who lived in the US and sold paintings and worked as a paid creative, chose to deal with everything that makes art in Trinidad and Tobago so difficult. The lack of infrastructure, the absence of critical discourse, the weakness of art administration. In my opinion, it is these very difficulties that stimulated Rupchand's great themes: growth despite constrictions, true beauty from the merely decorative, form from the formless, the quest for true fulfillment. Rupchand himself evoked the theme of the constant gardener, plowing, probing, enriching, and thereby harvesting from that womb of sustenance, that state of nirvana where the living vibration is interceded within my Caribbean roots. Celebrated as a major artist over the past 30 years, Rupchand's link to tradition, his decorative high-keyed palette, and his textured surfaces, combined with his social concerns, allowed him to create a powerful and unique national statement. This is work that wears its heart on its sleeves and makes no apologies for its patriotic intent. Indeed, Rupchand saw his life work as a way of giving back to his country, which made his development possible. He spoke of Eric Williams, who, in awarding him his National Scholarship for Art, intoned quietly, "This is for your country." The question arises, is Rupchand the end or the beginning? Is he the last of that great tradition of Chang and Leroy Clark, whose commitment to nation building has left lasting imprints on the national psyche? Or is he the beginning of a much-needed renaissance of our art, where our young artists retool with new materials, ideas, and methodologies to chart a distinctive course in a new globalized environment. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Jacob, for sharing the memories and moments of a true friend of yours and a man that contributed to our national landscape. Ladies and gentlemen, let's hear it for Mr. Jacob once again. We now get ready to celebrate our national instrument as we celebrate art. The band that I'm about to introduce, they have an untiring, unrelenting pursuit toward excellence. Ladies and gentlemen, from the Tunapuna Piarco region, let's hear it for Exodus. Ladies and gentlemen, Exodus Steel Orchestra. So the next person I'm actually going to bring to the podium, very passionate about Pan, and also his heart is definitely with our artists and preserving the art of Trinidad and Tobago. Please put your hands together and welcome to the podium the Honorable Prime Minister of our Twin Island Republic of Trinidad and Tobago, Dr. the Honorable Keith Rowley.
Thank you very much, Hans. Permit me to acknowledge in our presence in this very simple ceremony this evening the presence of a representative leader of the First Peoples of Trinidad and Tobago, Leader Ricardo Barrett, my cabinet colleagues standing in for the Minister of Works and Transport, who is unavoidably out of the country on a mission of family. It's not every day that your daughter graduates with a PhD in a university and the minister begged, having missed her previous graduations, to not be afforded an opportunity to miss it again. And I know exactly how he feels because I did exactly the same thing almost. I got there in time like he got there in time. So Minister Kazim Hussein is standing in for the Minister of Works and Transport this evening, and allow me to acknowledge also my cabinet colleagues in Tourism and Culture and the Minister of Urban Development and Housing for joining us here this evening. I also would like at this time to acknowledge the presence of some permanent secretaries, one of whom worked with me a long time ago before she jumped to be a permanent secretary, Simone Tolmora. And we have the honor, almost missed Ken Trishul this evening. He arrived just in time, but let me acknowledge Ken, who held some posts before, but this evening he was a master orator in telling us so much about an artist in whom we're all proud. Miss Kiba Jacob, in a new post of President of the Art Society. I know Kiba in the Parliament as not a parliamentarian, as public servant in the Parliament, and I hope you don't take too much of our time at the Art Society, but I know you do well there. And of course, Mr. Jacob, whose work written in the Newsday, I thought summarized the whole appreciation of this national effort, starting with Carla Chang, and this evening being put out. And I want to say for all times, Ken, this work in a public place, so every day it would be viewed by more and more people, as contrasted to when it's safely put away in the basement of some building. I also would like a special recognition to the family of Glenn Rupchan, who are here today reminding us that the role of the family in supporting not just the artists, but every member of the family can sometimes deliver magnificence as is hung on this wall here this evening. Thank you, Mr. Rupchan, and members of your family. Other artists and associates, many of whom are familiar to me because I have been around trying to get to know you and your work. And so this evening I welcome you, and I hope you feel what I feel in getting this done. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, all members of the media, citizens, this is the 60th anniversary of a nation, our country. In the life of a nation, 60 years is not a long time if you look at the world map, because there are countries that have been around. I'm currently reading a book called The History of the World. I've reached Mesopotamia, and I haven't reached Europe yet. They're still in the trees. But we, among that many groups of nations that got our independence in the 20th century, 60 years is a long time. And we've had our moments of pain and suffering, but we've had very, very many more moments of growth and development and pleasure and pride. And today is one of those days where pride takes pride of place in Trinidad and Tobago at the age 60. And I ask you to implement that. I was asked on the program, if you see a program, I'm down there, I'm down to give thanks. Because normally when I go to a function, because of the post I hold, I get to speak last and give something called a feature address. Today I was hoping that I was never asked to do that, and I'm glad you didn't ask me to do that, because I didn't want to attempt to gild the lily by talking about Rupchan and his work and Rupchan the artist after Ken Critchlow, who I know was going to do a very good job. Thank you very much, Ken. And after I read Mr. Jacobs' work, I know it had been written. So, but permit me to make a couple of comments outside of the thanks that I should give, and I would give. And it is about discovery and criticism. You know, many decades ago, I was very critical of our people in Trinidad and Tobago, a young developing nation. And it used to irritate me whenever I read in the papers about somebody who made it and come good, and oh, you can now be accepted because you're good. And it was usually because that person had gone outside of our country, or somebody from outside of the country had made those comments about somebody who was performing and living at home. So you're the best Calypsonian, the best writer, the best everything, but in this country you're not good till somebody outside say you're good. And that used to irritate me. And then I worked for the university for very many years, and I worked in volcanoes. So I traveled a lot around the world, a lot in South America and elsewhere. And one of the things that I did during those years, whenever I go to a country, especially a new country, I very quickly wanted to get to see their art galleries. And I would try, within the confines of the ability of my own pocket, to get a little piece of art from that country. And I did that until one night I was in Chile, they have beautiful street galleries in Chile and some arcades there. And I was going through this arcade with the intention of collecting a piece of Chilean painting. And then it struck me that I had paintings from Peru, Costa Rica, Brazil, and I had precious little from Trinidad and Tobago. So in short, I was doing exactly what I was criticizing other people. Looking outwards, accepting other people's excellence, and looking askance at what was available in Trinidad and Tobago. And that night, I did not buy a Chilean painting, so I do not have a Chilean painting. But I took the decision then that when I get back to Trinidad, I will, over time, make my own collection of Trinidad and Tobago's artist work. And this evening, as I sat there and heard the names of so many artists, I felt so satisfied that I could say to myself that in the last 3 or 4 decades, after that decision I made in Chile, I today own a piece, a small piece, of most of the artists that were mentioned here this evening. And that for me is a sense of great accomplishment. And in doing so, I try to get those pieces. Some I got from galleries, but I prefer to get my piece from the artist, him or herself. Usually after a visit to the studio and a conversation or a beverage with the artist, and that piece represents my commitment to accepting that we in Trinidad and Tobago are good as or better than many. And 60 years of nationalism, national life, tells us that we are 60 years young, because 60 years is a young nation, but we are old enough to have put our imprint on the world of quality art where the people are represented by their own people. And I think that's what this represents. So ladies and gentlemen, how satisfied are we that today we have embarked upon, as we did last night, as a significant part of the celebration of the 60th anniversary of the people of Trinidad and Tobago as a developing nation, with a long, long way to go, but have come from very far, from that colonial mentality to epiphanies like mine. And today we can go and put on an exhibition of our art and our history, our successes and our failures, in 4 of the most magnificent buildings, the buildings themselves being work of art, but of a different era. But we could do that as part of our independence. At Killarney, where the cloistered exhibition of the FCB is on display for a month. At Whitehall, the Office of the Prime Minister, where the Central Bank's exhibition is available for a month. And at Millfleur, where the Angostura exhibition is available to the public for a month. And as we do that, in between them, the Archbishop has offered by appointment to exhibit the Catholics' collection in their home, where they too have a significant block of artwork of Trinidad and Tobago. And I invite the nation of Trinidad and Tobago, wherever you are. I know some people say, well, we do everything in the city, but logistically we couldn't bring everything outside to Togo and to Tobago. But if you have the opportunity, during this month, sometime, go and gaze upon who we are, what we are, and who we could be, because it's all there, written, printed, and painted in our visual art today. And I could say the same thing about our steel band. I could say the same thing about our written word. But this year, the 60th anniversary, we've chosen on your behalf to demonstrate and to put out for widest public viewing for a month the art that makes Trinidad and Tobago a place to be proud of. I know some of our citizens copy other people's comments, and there's one comment that also irritates me, because I get irritated sometimes when somebody say they want, whenever something happens to us that is not the best. And some people's comment is Trinidad a real place? The answer is yes, only a real place can produce this. And if you go through the exhibition that's on display in Queen's Park West, and you will get the proof, further proof, that we are not only a real place, but we are a place where most of the world would like to live. Great place, recorded so exquisitely in the work of our visual artists. So today, it falls to me to say thanks to the organizers of this event, and for being able to put this up out of the gallery, out of the storeroom where it was for a long time. And I want to say to Ken that the government of Trinidad and Tobago would ensure that this is not the beginning of the end, but the end of the beginning. Fear not. And the reason why I can say that, quoting that Winston Churchill famous phrase, the reason why I can say that is that I am confident that many people who might be hurrying to that place or this place or a place over yonder, or who might be coming in here and seeing this for the first time, especially young people, would be able to consult themselves as to what does this mean to me and for me. And that is the proof of the preservation that will come, not only for this piece, but our involvement in art and artistic expression. Whether it is in music, when you hear the pan, whether it is in writing, when you read Naipaul and others, or whether when you view the magnificence of the work of Carlyle Chang, represented by Glenn Rupchan, and celebrated with the people of Trinidad and Tobago, who have attained 60 years, when some people were confident that once the Englishman left, we wouldn't last 6 years. Ladies and gentlemen, we're making it. We've made it. And for me, those of us, and I suspect Ken as well, I'm only sorry that Glenn is not here to be with us at this moment of celebration of this work. But for those of us who saw the beginning of this nation in 1962 and being here to celebrate its 60th birthday, all we ask for is a round of applause for Glenn Carlisle Chang and the people of Trinidad and Tobago. I want to thank one particular person who is the live wire of getting these things done when the ideas come up from the office of the Prime Minister and asks, get this done. And that person is Wendy Rock. Wendy is somewhere around here. Wendy is the can-do woman and Kazim Hussein is the can-do man. You tell them what you want done and they go and get it done. And Wendy has done a magnificent job in pulling together all those who have been willing to cooperate. And I must say, the artist group, the Rupchan family, and other people in the various ministries, I could have got a no, the country could have got a no, but so far all we got a yes, we can do and must do, and we've done it. And we are doing a particular series this year, so the 60th anniversary can be remembered. There's one more thing that we're going to do that I'm looking forward to, and it is the opening of the Dr. Eric Williams Memorial Library, where his collection would be housed in the old library on Knox Street. And so we look forward to that, and when we finish that and we celebrate this year, we look back on the 60th anniversary as a milestone and a long journey of nationhood in Trinidad and Tobago. So I want to thank everybody who had anything to do with this, those who wrote and spoke, those who came just to be present to give it a sense of occasion, and those of you, especially those of you who I have somewhere in my collection a little piece of your thought and your expressions on canvas or whatever else you did. Thank you very much for taking part, and let history show that we are on our way as a nation developing under God. Thank you very much.
Dr. the Honorable Keith Rowley, wow, amazing, amazing message from our Prime Minister, and of course, expressing so much gratitude. So we express gratitude to all the artists, we express gratitude to all of you, and of course, the viewing and listening audience. We invite you all to go to 4 of the magnificent 7 buildings to view the artwork of these artists from Trinidad and Tobago as we celebrate their work. And we also invite you here at the Piarco International Airport in the atrium. We do have a display, and obviously behind us the inherent nobility of man. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the end of the function today. My name is Hans Devines. Thank you for being a very attentive audience. We do have refreshments, and I do advise you all to check out the other pieces that we have in the atrium. Reach home safely, and God bless. And once again, in advance, we say happy 60th independence to all of us, Trinidad and Tobago. It is our Diamond Jubilee, and let's celebrate it to the fullest.
The Government of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago, Office of the Prime Minister presents Aspire, commemorating 60 years of independence and unity through culture. Live from the National Academy for the Performing Arts on Tuesday, 30th August, and it's free to the public. Tickets are available at Napa Box Office from Friday, 26th August. You can